about the Pineapple Express in the news lately and the large amount of rain and water that is being dumped on California and the west coast of the United States. Some of this massive weather system will continue across the United States and will lead to more snowfall and extreme weather conditions across the entire western states. So what does this actually mean? What is an atmospheric river? The basic principle is that it's a lot of condensed water vapor high in the atmosphere. Think of it as a stream of condensed water vapor about 200 or 300 kilometers wide. It contains an enormous volume of water, probably equivalent to 20 times the water flow at the mouth of the Mississippi River. Now, some of these storms, when they hit the west coast, can last 4 or 5 days long. And for a while, they were thought to be the 1,000-year storms. But it turns out that really large ones, called megastorms, occur every 100 to 200 years. The intensity of atmospheric river storms are rated on a scale of 5, 1 being relatively benign and 5 being extremely hazardous. The current storm of 2024 hitting the California coast has a rating of 4, which largely depends on the duration of the storm and the intensity of rainfall. Usually these storms will last 4 or 5 days with continuous hard rain. Larger ones may last much longer and only occur every 150 years. Atmospheric rivers are happening all the time somewhere on the Earth, but they're not necessarily a yearly severe event. And in the U.S., they do account for 30% of our West Coast precipitation. Starting as plumes of tropical moisture that fling off the equatorial belt near Hawaii, these streams hit the west coast of the United States and begin to lift into the atmosphere as the presence of the Sierra Nevada force them up. This causes them to cool, condense, and eventually precipitate. It's the enormous quantity of rain that causes the flooding and landslides that goes with them. Research shows that global warming is not necessarily increasing the number of storms, but the intensity of them is rising. And insurance models are showing that damage from these events is set to triple in the future, from the $1 billion damage we see today to nearly $3 billion in the future. If there is a silver lining to these events, it is that quite often these atmospheric rivers will break the cycle of drought. For example, California has been in a drought for a number of years, and when you suddenly get a deluge of water like this, it usually leads to a few years of normal precipitation, and it also helps to build up some of the reservoirs of surface or groundwater. The megastorms that I mentioned previously can lead to significant amounts of water, as in the Great Flood of 1862, where it rained for about 4 to 5 weeks, from the end of 1861 to early 1862. This led to pretty much the whole Central Valley flooding. There were parts of Sacramento that had up to 30 feet of water. If this happened today, it would be extremely catastrophic to our levees, the agricultural industry, and pretty disruptive to major cities like Sacramento and San Francisco. Down in the Los Angeles area, engineers are very concerned about the Whittier Narrows Bridge and Dam and some of the other structures that withhold some of the streams coming out of the Central Valley and elsewhere. If these structures fail, you could see casualties of 1 million people downstream. So this is indeed a very significant worry for government agencies, where we have to actually think about all the levees that were built 50 years ago or more and are holding back water around the Sacramento area. If they can't deal with 10, 20, or 30 feet of water, we could have a real big catastrophe on our hands.